All right. So here we are at the Free Code Camp JavaScript Algorithms and Data Structures beta main page. So developers use HTML and CSS to control the content and styling of a page, and they use JavaScript to make that page interactive. In this JavaScript algorithm and data structures certification, we're going to learn the JavaScript fundamentals like variables, arrays, objects, loops, functions, the DOM, and more. We're also going to learn about object-oriented programming, functional programming, algorithmic thinking, how to work with local storage, and how to fetch data using an API. Here's a note. Some browser extensions such as ad blockers and script blockers can interfere with the tests. If we face issues, we're recommended to disable extensions that modify or block the content of pages while taking the course. All right. So we're going to start off here with learn introductory JavaScript by building a pyramid generator. This is my first time through it, so let's go to it. JavaScript is a powerful scripting language that we can use to make web pages interactive. It's one of the core technologies of the web, along with HTML and CSS. All modern browsers support JavaScript. In this practice project, we're going to learn fundamental programming concepts in JavaScript by coding our own pyramid generator. We're going to learn how to work with arrays, strings, functions, loops, if-else statements, and more. All right, so let's start the project. Here we are on step 1. JavaScript is the programming language that powers the web. Pardon me. Unlike HTML and CSS, we have learned previously, the HTML, JavaScript is most commonly used to write logic instead of markup. One of the most important concepts in programming is variables. A variable points to a specific memory address that stores a value. Variables are given a name which can be used throughout our code to access that value. Declaring a variable means giving it a name. In JavaScript, this is often done with the let keyword. For example, here's how we would declare a hello variable. We'd say let hello, just like that. Now, variable naming follows specific rules. Names can include letters, numbers, dollar signs, and underscores, but cannot contain spaces and must not begin with a number. We're going to declare a character variable in our code. And note, it's common practice to end statements in JavaScript with a semicolon. They probably won't let us pass unless we have the semicolon, so let's do that. So now we're going to let character like this with a semicolon at the end, all right? So now later we can say character equals something and refer to character instead of the whatever it equals. It's just like that, right? So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 2. So our character variable currently does not have a value, just like I said about the equal earlier. We can assign a value using the assignment operator, the equals sign, all right? For example, let hello equal hello like this, all right? And we're going to put these hello inside of these quotes. So assigning a value to a variable at the moment of its declaration is known as initialization. We're going to initialize our character variable by assigning it the value hello during its declaration, all right? So right here, before the semicolon, after the R, we're going to have space equals. We're going to have we're going to have the quotes like this, and inside of it, we'll say hello like that. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 3. So JavaScript has 7 primitive data types with string being one of them. In JavaScript, a string represents a sequence of characters and can be enclosed in either single or double quotes, so an apostrophe or the regular double quotes like this. We're going to note that strings are immutable, which means that once they are created, they cannot be changed, all right? So we're going to change our hello string to use single quotes, all right? So all we got to do is take these double quotes, turn them into single quotes thusly, and that should take care of it. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 4. So the console allows us to print and view JavaScript output. We can send information to the console using console.log. For example, this code will print Naomi to the console. So we'll say let developer equal Naomi like this. And when we say console.log developer, it's going to print Naomi in the console. And the console they're talking about is this thing right here. All right, well, it was already up. So the code above accesses the developer variable with its name in the console.log. And we're going to note that the value between the parentheses is the value that will be printed. So this, whatever's in here. So we're going to put developer inside of these parentheses right here. All right. We're going to print the value of the character variable to the console. And then we're going to click the console button to view the JavaScript code. Well, it's already open, but whatever. Anyway, so let's come over here and we'll do console.log, and see the parentheses they're talking about are these right here. So we'll just take character by double clicking character, copying it, putting it inside of here, and well, whoops. Check the code. Okay, there it is right there. Looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 5. So when a variable is declared with the let keyword, we can reassign or change the value of that variable later on. In this example, the value of programmer is changed from Naomi to Camper Chan. Okay. How inclusive. We're going to let programmer equal Naomi, and then programmer now equals Camper Chan. All right. So now programmer, instead of equaling this first, now equals this. So we're going to note that when reassigning a variable that has already been declared, we do not use the let keyword. All right. So yeah, when let's already been declared, we only use it one time, right? When the variable's already been declared by let, we only use the let one time, right? So after our console.log, we're going to assign the value world to our character variable. Okay. So yeah, right here, we're going to say character, that's not how you spell it. Character now equals, what was it, world? There we go. And let's cap it off with a semicolon thusly, right? So let's check the code. Look, it says, what? Come on now. Oh, yeah. Well, we did the console.log before we changed it, so it still says hello. If we come down here, let me copy this. And let's reset it. Let's come over here, drop it off, and then let's do console.log character after we do this. Now let's check the code. You see it does hello first, and then does world second like that. It does this one first because this hasn't happened yet. And now it does this one. It does this one change because it's changed up. You know what I'm trying to say. Let's check looks good. And some, well, come on. Oh yeah. Get rid of that. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 6. So now we're gonna log our character variable in the console. Again, didn't we just do that? We should see the string hello and then the string world in the console. All right, so let's do this. Let's just take this. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is to highlight all of 2 like this and then to the beginning of 1, copy it, and then we can just throw it on the end of this like right there. Because usually there's not going to be a space there for us. We're going to have to either put the space there or whatever. So just letting you know. So let's check the code. Looks good, just like it before, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 7. So when variable names are more than one word, there are specific naming conventions for how we capitalize the words. In JavaScript, the convention is to use camel case. Very true. Camel case means that the first word in the name is entirely lowercase, just like free code camp right here. And the following words are all title cased, right? So this is camel case. This is camel case in Codeman S. Where we got that? Codeman S. Guess where I got that from? Camel case as well, all right? So we can see examples over here like variable 1, second variable, yet another variable. This is an absurdly long name. Very true. These are bad ones, but we're going to see plenty of them later on down the line. We're going to use camel case to declare a new second character variable. So we'll come down here and we'll say let second character with a semicolon like that. Check the code. Looks good. And this is looking a little bit cramped right now. Let's try to separate this stuff. Like we would usually put all the lets together and then we do this stuff. It's just an organization thing. But anyway, let's go to the next one and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 8. So when we declare a variable without initializing it, it is considered uninitialized. Currently, our second character variable is uninitialized. So we're going to add a console.log to see the value of our second character variable. All right, so let's get this right here, copy it. We'll highlight 5 in the end of 4, drop it off like this. we'll highlight the C in character and say second, and then capital C like that. And then when we check the code, we can see it says undefined right here, right? And that's because we haven't defined what this is, right? So let's check the code, looks good, submit it. And now we're on to step 9, right? So the default value of an uninitialized variable is undefined, like we just saw. This is a special data type that represents a value that does not have a definition yet. So we can still assign a value to an uninitialized variable. So here's an example. We can say let uninitialized, and then we'll say uninitialized equals assigned. I mean, we've already done this. Anyway, so we're going to assign the string test to our second character variable below our declaration. We're going to open the console to see how our log has changed. We're going to assign the string to, okay. So let's take second character like this. So just double click second character, copy it, paste it like that. We're going to say equals, and then we'll say the string test like that. Let's go to the end, cap it off with a semicolon, check the code. Look at that. Hello test, looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 10. So we can also assign a value, the value of an, let me say that again. We can also assign the value of a variable to another variable. For example, we've got let first equal 1, let second equal 2, second equals first. Okay. So the second variable would now have the value 1. To see this in action, we're going to change our second character assignment from test to our character variable. Then we're going to open the console to see what gets logged. Okay, what did that say? The second variable will now be 1. Second, what? Oh, yeah. Because we're saying second equals first, right? So first is 1. So second is now going to equal 1. It's just like this, but if we said character equals character, like let's say if this was character 1, no, that's not good. Anyway, let's just do this. All right, so we're going to change our second character assignment from test to our character variable. All right, so let's just highlight this whole test right here and say character, right? So now this equals whatever this is, which equals this. So it's kind of like a chain right now. So character equals this, so this now equals this. Let's do a console.log while we're at it. Okay, let's say console.log second character. Console.log second character. Check the code. You see, there it is. We did change? Okay, so we changed character to world. Okay, that's what happened. We changed character to world. Now, second character equals character, which equals world. All right, that makes more sense. Whatever, let's go to the next one and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 11. So now we're ready to declare our next variable. We're going to remove both console.log statements and the character reassignment. We're also going to remove our second character variable, but leave the character initialization. Where is it? Character initialization unchanged. All right, so I think we're just going to take all this and say, see ya, check it, looks good, and submit it. All right. So now we're on to step 12. So we're going to use let to declare a count variable. We're going to assign it a number 8. When using a number value, we're going to not use quotes, okay? Of course, okay. So for example, let money equal 100, right? Because this is just a number and this is a string. We'll get into that later. So right here, we're going to say what did you say? Let count equal 8, like that. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. So now we're on to step 13. So with the number data type, we can perform mathematical operations like addition. So we're going to try printing count plus 1 to the console. All right, so we'll come down here. We'll say console.log count plus 1, like that. And so when we check the code, we've got 9 right here. Looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 14. So now we can perform, So we can also perform subtraction, multiplication, and division. We can feel free to experiment with the operators and numbers in our console.log. And when we're ready to move on, we'll remove the console.log, right? So count, let's do like 2, let's put 2 here, and let's put times 2. All right, check it, 16. Whatever. Anyway. Oh, okay. So it says keep going. So here we go. We've got 2. Let's go divided by 2. Check the code. 4. All right. What else do we got? Subtract 2. Subtract 6. Okay. So now let's get rid of this thing. Check it. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 15. So in programming, we will often need to work with lots of data. There are many data structures that can help us organize and manage our data. One of the most basic data structures is an array. Very true. An array is a non-primitive data type that can hold a series of values. Non-primitive data types differ from primitive data types in that they can hold more complex data. Primitive data types like strings and numbers can only hold one value at a time. So arrays are denoted using square brackets. So these right here, it's right to the left, to the right of the P on your keyboard. So here's an example of a variable with the value of an empty array. So we would say let array equal an empty array like that. And so whenever we see empty array later, that's what they're talking about right here. So we're going to declare a rows variable and assign it an empty array. Every rose has a thorn, all right? Anyway, so let's say let rows equal an empty array like that, all right? So let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 16. So when an array holds a value or elements, those values are separated by commas. So here's an array that holds 2 strings. So we say let array equal, and then we've got first as the first string, comma, second as a second string. So this is basically, an array is basically like a list, all right? So we're going to change our rows declaration to be an array with the string Naomi, Quincy, and Camperchan. The order of values in the array is important, so we're going to follow that order. Well, remember that strings are case sensitive, all right? So yeah, let's start off with a string like this and a comma like this, and inside the string, we'll put Naomi, all right? So quick way to do this, let's take this, copy it, and then drop it off 1, 2 times, get rid of that last comma. Let's double click Naomi. On the second one, say Quincy, and then the third one we'll do Camperchan. Camperchan. All right. Anyway, let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. Why is that not got a real person's name? Anyway, whatever. Is that like a dog or something? I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Don't care. So here's step 17. So we can access the values inside an array using the index of a value. All right, that's very true. An index is a number representing the position of a value in an array starting from 0 for the first value. So we can access a value using bracket notation such as array at 0. We're going to use console.log and bracket notation to print the first value in our rows array. All right, so yeah, let's go over this. So this is going to be index 1, right? This is there. Each one of these is called an element. This is the element at index 0, I should say. This is the element at index 0. This is the element at index 1, and this is the element at index 2. But also they're going to say first, second, and third element. So this is the first element, second element, third element. So index 0, index 1, and index 2, first, second, third, right? All elements. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's do the console.log while we're at it. Console.log, and we're going to say rows at 0, right? So that's basically how I say it. We say rows at 0 like this, and that's going to put Naomi in there. Let's do 1 and 2 while we're at it. So 1, we're going to see Quincy shows up. When we put 2, we can see Camperchan. When we put 3, we can see undefined because there is no third one in here. Pardon me, there is no index 0, 1, 2, 3 in here, so it's undefined. And then let's put the correct answer 0 like this. Naomi like that. So let's check it, looks good, and submit it. And then now we're on to step 18. So arrays are special in that they are considered mutable. This means that we can change the value at any index, at an index directly. Very true. So for example, this code would assign the number 25 to the second element in an array. So we can say let array equal 1, 2, 3. So here's index 0, index 1, and index 2. All right. So array at 1 now equals 25. So we're changing array at 0, array at 1. So we're changing this one to 25. All right. That's what's going to happen there. We're going to update the third element of our rows array to be the number 10. And see if the third element, see, I told you they were going to try to trick us. Then we're going to print the rows array to our console. I knew it. I've been using this site for 2 years. They love pulling their little fast ones. All right. So to update the third element, we're going to say rows at 3. No. Rows at 2. All right. And what that's going to equal is 10. All right. So let's put 3 in there just in case we want to see what a wrong answer looks like. Yeah, it doesn't look good. So let's come over here and let's change it to 2. Check it. Come on now. Rows. Print the rows. Oh, yeah. The console.log. Rows. All right. Now let's do, I don't want to do that again. Anyway, so there we go. Boom. Just like that. We can see it says 10 right here instead of what it did say, which was Camperchan. Camperchan's getting the rough end of the deal, Quincy. Whatever. Submit it. Looks good and submit it. And now we're on to step 19. This is a long one. So notice how the value inside our rows array has been changed directly. Did we notice it? Yes, we did. No longer is it Camperchan. Now it's 10, right? So this is called mutation. As we learn more about arrays, we will learn when to mutate an array and when we should not, right? But before moving on, this is a great opportunity to learn a common array use. Currently, our code accesses the last element in the array with rows at 2. But we may not know how many elements are in an array when we want the last one. Very true. So we can make use of the .length property of an array. This returns the number of elements in an array. For example, our rows array has 3 elements. So rows.length would equal 3. Very true. But the thing is, since we know the last element is at 2, we can compare that with the length of the array and see it is 1 less. The last element of an array will always be accessible at the index length minus 1. Very true, right? So we can use that in our bracket notation. So we'll update our rows at 2 to access the rows at .length minus 1 index instead of the 2 index. And we should not see any changes in our console. All right. So yeah, basically rows.length is going to equal 3 for this one because there's 1, 2, 3. All right. No matter what, whenever we put .length after it, it's going to give us the whole length of the array, even if there's a billion elements in an array, right? And so when we want to access the last one, since it starts at 0, we always know that it's going to be length. We're going to say rows.length minus 1. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So let's come in here. And we're going to say rows at rows.length minus 1, all right? So hopefully that works. Let's check the code. Yep, still did it. Looks good and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 20. And for now, we're going to remove our first console log and our rows at 2 assignment. And we're going to leave the second rows log statement for later. Second rows. What? All right, we'll get rid of this, remove this, and our rows at 2 assignment. Oh, I guess they're talking about this. So just delete all this stuff. Boom. Gotcha. Second. What? Oh, we're going to leave this one. Well, it's outside the box, so of course we will. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now on to step 21. So a method in JavaScript is a function that's associated with certain values or objects. An example we've already encountered is the .log method. Very true. Which is part of the console object. I can't believe it's been this long since they've actually discussed this. But whatever. Arrays have their own methods, and the first we will explore is the push method. Very true. This allows us to push a value to the end of an array. So here's an example to add the number 12 to the end of an array. So we'll say array.push12. So we're going to use the push method to add a string free code, to add the string free code camp to the end of our rows array. We're going to add this code before our console.log so we can see the change we made in our array, right? So first, before we get into this stuff, whenever you see something like dot push with parentheses, saying dot push, that's not the way to say it, right? I mean, you can say that if you want. I mean, nothing's written in stone when it comes to programming, trust me. But whenever you see something like this, whenever I see something like this, I try to say use the push method. You know, this, let's just say the period means the, and then push, and then method right here, right? Whatever. Also, later on, especially if you go and check out, I highly recommend this too, the Code Wars. Go over to Code Wars to do a lot of practice algorithms. The best place to find the real documentation of this stuff is going to be right here. So let's say something like that. Push method JavaScript, right? So type something like that. Boom. MDM web docs right here. So we've got the array.prototype.push. This part, just ignore it, right? It's the push method, right? So the push method of array instances adds the specified element to the end of an array and returns the new length of the array, right? So later on down the road, when you forgot how to do something, but you do remember the name of it, because look at all these are all the different methods. There's not only these, but there's all kinds of other methods and whatnot. Oh no, actually, I guess those are all the methods, but whatever. This is the place to go, MDM, right? So let's get back to it. So we're going to use the push method to add the string free code camp to the end of our rows array, right? So in between here on 4, we'll say rows dot push, and inside of these parentheses, we'll have the string free code camp like that, right? And it's going to say the same thing over here. Basically, we've got a const animals. We've got this array animals. We're going to push cows to the end of it, and then when we say console.log count, what count? Oh, anyway, so yeah, this will give us some extra stuff. So whenever we say something like animals.push, this actually equals a number right here. This thing itself equals a number. So the output will be 4. Interesting. But the array animals now equals pigs, goats, sheep, cows. Okay. Anyway, so this thing will give you some extra tips that free code camp will never, ever touch. Trust me, it will never touch it. So anyway, we got this going on right here. Now we've got the console.log rows. Let's check the code. Looks good. We got the free code camp at the end of the thing. So it got pushed onto the end and submitted. All right, now we're on to step 22. Hopefully this, anyway, let's keep going. So another method essential for this project is the pop method. All right, so let's open a pop while we're at it. Pop. There we go. So yeah, we got the pop right here as well. So it removes the last element from an array and returns that element, right? So just like the other one returned the number 4, this one will return the actual element popped off the end. So when a method returns a value, we can think of it as giving the value back to us, making it available for use in other parts of the code. So we're going to declare a popped value and assign it the result of rows.pop. Then we're going to log our popped variable. Okay. So what we'll do here is we will say rows. No. We'll say const. No, we'll say let popped equal. Let's give it some space for real. Let's do a little space here. Let popped equal rows.pop. All right. Cap it off with a semicolon. Then we're going to do a console.log on that one too. So we'll say console.log and we'll say popped. Popped. There we go. Hopefully that works. Let's check the code. Did it work? Yeah. All right, so we got free code camp. It got popped off the end of the rows array. All right, and so now the rows array looks like this when it used to look like, well, we can't go back. Anyway, so this got popped off the end, and there we go. So let's submit it. You can just rewind if you want to see what it looked like. So now we're on to step 23. So we should have seen free code camp printed in the console. We did. This is because the pop method returns a value that was removed from the array, and we pushed free code camp to the end of the array earlier. True. All right. But what does the push method return? Oh, look. Okay, now we're getting to it. Sorry, free code camp. Anyway, so we're going to assign our existing rows.push to a new pushed variable and log it. All right. So let's do that. Say console.log pushed. Actually, we got to assign our existing rows.push to a pushed variable. Okay, so in front of this, let's do that. So let's say let pushed equal rows. There we go. And then we're going to log it. So let's log pushed. Pushed. How about that? Go to the end, cap it off with a semicolon. Check the code. Looks good. And look, now it does have 4, right? But it has 4 because that's before we popped off the end of it. So if we did pushed afterwards, we can't do it. It doesn't just update in the console. Anyway, whatever. If we did pushed afterwards, after this pop, it would say 3 in there, right? So it looks good and submit it. All right. So now we're on to step 24. So were we expecting to see 4 in the console? Well, yeah, we were. We sure were, actually. The push method returns the new length of the array after adding the value we give it. Okay. It is important to be aware of what values a method returns. We're going to take some time to experiment with the push method and the pop method. When we are ready, we'll remove all of our push and pop calls and our console.log statement. All right. So yeah, let's I don't know. You want to experiment with it? Let's push another thing on there. Let's do rows.push rows.push. Doesn't matter. All right. And then let's check it. So what? Unpushed. Where's the console.log rows? Why isn't it in there? Here's this. Console popped. Oh, because we popped it off the end. Oh, yeah. Okay. So if we do it again, check it. Okay, so there it is. It still got popped off the end. Okay. And now let's, anyway, so hopefully you get what's going on. So what did it say to do? Get rid of all the push and pop calls. Push even this one? Let's see. Everything? Get rid of everything? Okay, there we go. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 25. So we're going to change our rows declaration to be assigned an empty array again. Rows to be an empty array. So this will be an empty array, all right? Also, we're going to change our hello string to use double quotes again. All right, so double quotes around that. Generally, it does not matter which of the two we prefer. It does not matter which of the two we prefer. Okay, but we will want to be consistent in that choice throughout the project. Yeah. So let's get this stuff out of here first, right? So empty array first. So as far as the thing goes, yes, it is easier to not hit shift on these, but the thing about it is that when we use double quotes like this, you have to remember inside strings, like in sentences and stuff like this, we're going to be using apostrophes like for possessive nouns and possessive nouns and contractions a lot more often than we're going to be using actual quotation marks for quotes. And we have to do a special thing to get rid of either double quotes or single quotes, depending. Like, let's say, hello, Jack's mom. Like that, right? We see we got this right here, no big deal. But hello, if we wanted to, hello, Jack's mom, I said, let's say I said, comma, hello, Jack's mom, like this, you can see that's not going to work so well. You can see it's got problems over here. So to get rid of that, we would have to do the escape character, which is the backslash like this in front of this one, backslash in front of this one. And that's how that works. So to avoid all that, let me see, what am I trying to say? To avoid having to do that, like let's say let's have this right here. Sorry to make this one too long, but whatever. So let's say we have it in single quotes and we don't get rid of this. All right. So you can see after this one right here, all this stuff is looking ridiculous, right? Because, hold on. All right. So you see this is the string, but this, we want this to be the end of the string. So we'd have to escape this character right here, right? Huh? Hello, Jackson. Hold on. Okay, there's that. I said hello, Jack's mom. Okay, yeah. See, so this is the string according to it, and this is some extra stuff, okay? So we would have to escape this, and there we go. All right, anyway, I'll edit this in post. So let's get rid of all this stuff. Go back to the beginning. Let's reset it. Forget about it. Let's reset it. So let's get rid of this. And let's change these to dubs. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 26. So the let keyword allows a variable to be reassigned. This means we could change character later to be a completely different value. For this project, we will not want to change these variable values. So instead, we should use const to declare them. Const variables are special. Okay, very true. First, a const variable cannot be reassigned like a let variable. This code would throw an error right here. So we would have const first name equals Naomi, and then we would say first name equals Jessica in a string. No, because const is a constant, right? Let, we can do that, but with const, we can't. So a const variable also cannot be uninitialized. This code would throw an error. So if we say const first name, it ain't gonna work either, right? So we're gonna replace our let keywords with const, all right? So let's change the first one, const thusly. Let's double click this, copy it with a control C, double click let, control V, double click let, control V thusly, all right? Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 27. So now we are ready to start building our pyramid generator. Our character variable will serve as the building block for the pyramid. So hello might not work very well for that. So we're going to change the value of character to the hash character, all right? So we'll double click hello, and we'll do a shift 3, thusly, put a hashtag in there. So let's check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 28. So to generate a pyramid, we will need to create multiple rows. When we have to perform a task repeatedly until condition is met, we will use a loop. Very true. Now, there are many ways to write a loop. So we're going to start with a basic for loop. For loops use the following syntax. We would say for, and then we would have an iterator, a condition, and an iteration. And all three of these are separated by semicolons thusly, right? And then we'll have the logic in here, right? So this is basically the guts of the for loop. So in the upcoming steps, we're going to explore each component of a loop in detail. But for now, we're going to construct a for loop that includes the terms iterator, condition, and iteration for the three components. We're going to keep the loop body, and the section within the curly braces is going to be an empty set of curly braces. Okay. Anyway, so let's do this. So for now, construct a for loop. So let's do a for. We'll say iterator, comma, semicolon, condition, semicolon, iteration. Okay, and then we'll do the, what is it? The curly braces like that. Hopefully that works. Oh, it's got to be. All right, so double click these, wrap them up in double quotes like this. Now? Okay, there we go. And submit it. All right, now we're on step 29. So our loop now needs a proper iterator. The iterator is a variable we can declare specifically in our for loop to control how the loop iterates or goes through our logic. It's a common convention, to use I as an iterator variable in a loop. A for loop allows us to declare this in the parentheses, all right? For example, here's a for loop that declares an index variable and assigns it the value 100, right? So we would say for let index equal 100, and then we have the second and the third things right here, right? So we're going to replace the string iterator with a let declaration for the variable I. We'll assign it the value 0 to start, and this is going to give the I variable a value 0 the first time our loop runs, all right? So we'll take this, highlight the whole thing, we'll say let I, thusly, right? So now this is uninitialized because it's a let, and we're always going to use let inside this. Sometimes people use var, but we haven't got it in var yet. But we're always going to use let and not const because we're going to be changing the I pretty much every single time we use a for loop. So let's check the code. Come on now. Assign it to 0. Oh, okay. Let I equals 0. All right. So let the iterator equals 0. Check the code. Come on now. Check the code. Is my internet going down? Looks good. And submit. Oh, potential infinite loop detected. Well, whatever. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 30. So a condition of a for loop tells the loop how many times it should iterate. When the condition becomes true, the loop will stop. In JavaScript, a Boolean value, that's a real word, value can be either true or false. These are not strings, and we will learn more about the difference later on, right? So whenever you see the word Boolean, even though it's the dumbest word you've probably seen all day, Boolean means either true or false. And we're going to be using this so much, it will definitely become part of your vocabulary by the, I don't know how long, but it will be part of your vocabulary, right? So for now, we will use the less than operator, right? So the angle bracket pointing to the left. And this is going to allow us to check if the value on the left is less than the value on the right. For example, count is less than 3 would evaluate to true if count equals 2, and false if count equals 4. It'll also be false if count equals 3 because 3 is not less than 3, right? Of course. So we're going to replace our condition string with the condition to check if I is less than count. So let's highlight condition right here. We'll say if count is less than 3, all right? If I is less than count, my bad. If I is less than count. If I is less than count, right? And so we've got count right here, all right? And that's what we're talking about. So let's check the code. Is the internet going down? Anyway, whatever. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now on to step 31. So our iteration statement will tell our loop what to do with the iterator after each run. So when we reassign a variable, we can use the variable to reference the previous value before the reassignment. When we reassign a variable, we can use the variable to reference the previous value before the reassignment. We'll find out what that means in a little bit. This allows us to do things like add 3 to an existing number, okay? So for example, b's equals b's plus 3. Oh, yeah. So that would increase the value of b's by 3, We're going to use that syntax to replace our iteration string with a reassignment statement that increases I by 1. So we're going to use that syntax to replace our iteration string with a reassignment statement that increases I by 1, all right? So yeah, basically what we're going to say is I now equals I plus 1, right? So whatever I used to be, it's going to add 1 to it, and now I equals that, all right? So this I is referring to what I used to be, and this I right here is what I is changing into. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's cap this off with a semicolon. Why not? Check the code. Looks not good. What's the problem? I by 1 for each iteration. Oh yeah, it's right here. So let's take this. Let's get rid of the semicolon. Take this, copy it. No, X. Do a Control X on it and put it right here. And I don't think we need the I equals, do we? I equals I plus 1? Yeah, we do. All right, so now check it. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 32. So our loop should now run 8 times. Inside the body of the loop, we're going to print the value of of the I iterator and see what happens. All right. Pardon me. So we're going to say console.log I, like this. So it should print 8 times. It'll say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because it won't go to 8 because 7 is less than 8, but 8 is not less than 8. So let's go over here, check the code. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it did exactly that. All right. So it went through once and it printed the 0. And then it went through again and it printed the 1 on the next line. It went through again, printed the 2. Went through again, the 3, again 4, again 5, again 6, again 7. All right. So it looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 33. So we should see the numbers 0 through 7 printed in our console. Well, we did. This will serve as the foundation for generating our pyramid. We're going to replace our log statement with a statement to push I to our rows array. Okay, rows array. Anyway, get back to it. What are we doing? Replace our log statement with a statement to push I. Okay, so we'll say rows dot push I, right? So now when we do the console.log on push on rows, it'll have let's actually do that. Let's do console.log rows. All right, check the code. Oh, come on. Anyway, so when we do that, we can see now it pushes 0, then it pushes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just like that. Let's get rid of this. All right, looks good. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 34. So unfortunately, now we cannot see what our loop is doing. So we're going to use let to declare a result variable and assign it an empty string. We're going to assign, an empty string is represented by quotation marks with nothing in between them, such as this. So just like this would be an empty array, quotes with nothing around them like this, with nothing, quotes that aren't surrounding anything. Anyway, you know what, that would be an empty string. So now we're going to say let result equal an empty string like that. Let's cap it off with a semicolon. All right, check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 35. So now we're going to add a log statement to print the value of result. Depending on which console we use, we may not see anything printed. Okay, add a log statement and print the value of result. Okay, what? Console.log. What's going on? Log result. Why is it lagging so hard? Whatever. Let's check it. Okay, didn't do anything. Okay, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 36. What did that do? Anyway, I don't know. So to manipulate the result string, we will use a different type of loop, specifically a for of loop. Yes, we will, which iterates over each item in an iterable object and temporarily assigns it to a variable. The syntax of a for of loop looks like this. So we'll do for const value of iterable, okay? Now, I don't use these too often, but we'll go over this anyway. So note that we can use const because the variable only exists for a single iteration, not during the entire loop. So we're going to create a for of loop to iterate through our rows array, assigning each value to a row variable. Okay. So we'll say, note that we can use const. We're going to use a for of loop. So we'll say for. What is going on? For. All right. And then we'll say const row of rows now equals this. Hopefully that works. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. Now we're on to step 37. So we're going to remember in our previous loop that we used the addition operator plus the addition operator, whatever, to increase the value of I by 1, pardon me. We can do a similar thing with a string value by appending a new string to an existing string, okay? For example, hello equals hello plus, and then a string with world would add the string world to the existing string stored in the hello variable. And this is called concatenation, right? And so when we see this hello is referring to this hello right here, which would already have been declared earlier, right? And then we see there's a space in between world and this right here, this quote, all right? It's just like this right here, right? Hopefully that makes sense. It's only because it's on the second line. Anyway, so in our for of loop, we're going to use the addition operator to concatenate the row value to the result value, right? So we'll say row plus, we'll say result equals result plus row. Okay. What's that going to do? This is the part of coding of this site where you're like, what's this about to do? Because, this is my first time through. Result equals this. And we'll see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so yeah. Row of rows. Result plus row. Rows. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What? Push. Oh. Okay. Okay, so now I know what's going on. All right, let's reset this thing and go through it because clearly, we're going to need to know what's up. All right, so let's drop this down 1 and let's do a console.log row z. All right, and so now we're going to do result equals result plus row. All right. So now let's check the code. Hopefully, anyway, whatever. So here's what it is, right? These are all strings of numbers, right? Or are they? Are they? These are all regular numbers, right? So why does it convert these numbers into strings to add to this thing? It doesn't tell us. Anyway, so it's talking about this. So this is row of rows. So here's rows, and they're talking about each one of these is a row. So here's the first row, goes through, adds the first one, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one, then the fifth one, all the way to the 8th one right here. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. This is mighty confusing for introductory JavaScript, right? And then somehow it converts. These are actually numbers right now. Let's get all this, copy it, reset it one more time. All right, let's paste this stuff. All right, and now we're going to do a type of type console.log type of, and then we'll say rows at I. All right. Check it. Okay. No, it's not rows at I, it's rows at 0. Anyway, let's take it again. We're not submitting it. Do it again. All right. Whatever. All right. Check the code. Type of. Okay, so it is a number. All right, so type of, whenever you say type of, and then whatever afterwards, it'll tell you the type, the data type it is, right? So these are numbers, but for some reason, it's because, okay, because result is an empty string, so we're adding the numbers into the string. I guess that's what happens. Okay, turns out. This is not a common thing to do. That's why I'm like, what's going on here? You know? But whatever. Now it looks good in submit, right? Hopefully that cleared something up for you guys, because it did for me. All right, so now we're on to step 38. So now all of our numbers are appearing on the same line. And this will not work for creating a pyramid. True. We will need to add a new line to each row. However, pressing the return key to insert a line break between quotes in JavaScript will result in a parsing error. I'm also running out of steam right now. This is actually a lot more work than I thought. Instead, we need to use the special escape sequence \n, which is interpreted as a new line when the string is logged. For example, line 1 equals line 1 plus the escape, the what do they call it? Escape sequence. All right, plus line 2. This is going to put line 1 on one line and then line 2 on another line. All right. Anyway, whatever. So we're going to use a second addition operator to concatenate a new line between the existing result value and the added row value. Okay. So we'll use a second addition operator to concatenate a new line between the existing result, this thing here, and the row. Okay, so we'll say plus, and then we'll do \n like this, and then we'll do plus row like that. That should take care of it. Check the code. Okay, yeah, so it does put them each on its own line. Okay, cool. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 39. So printing numbers won't result in a visually appearing pyramid. Very true. That's why we're going to use the hashtags, right? Now that we're outputting the formatted content of our rows array, it's time to update our original loop. So instead of pushing I to the array, we're going to push the value of our character variable. Okay. Instead of pushing, okay. So we'll just put character like that. Check the code. Look, there we go, right? Like that looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 40. So now we have a series of hashtag characters, but the pyramid shape is still missing. Very true. Fortunately, the I variable represents the current row number in our loop, enabling us to use it for crafting a pyramid-like structure. To achieve this, we will use the repeat method available to strings. Let's go get repeat up while we're at it. Repeat. Boink. There we go. No, not the CSS function. Repeat method JavaScript. There we go. Yeah, and also whenever you're doing this stuff, make sure you're on the correct page, because some of this stuff repeats. Some of this stuff definitely, they use repeat for different technologies, different languages and stuff like that. So even MDM Web Docs isn't perfect. Free Code Camp isn't perfect. None of these are perfect. You have to figure it out yourself, all right? Or, you know, I've got some tips, but I don't have them all. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I'm not even perfect. All right, let's go. Repeat method. So this method accepts a number as an argument, specifying the number of times to repeat the target string. For example, using the repeat method to generate the string code, like that. So we would say const activity equals code, and then activity equals repeat 3. So it would say code space repeat, and then it would come to the end. It should have a space at the end too, but we're not going to get into semantics, right? So we're going to use the repeat method. Actually, let's go prove that. Happy. See, on this one, when we run it, it does have the space at the end. You have to get rid of the space somehow in your code, all right? So we're going to use the repeat method on our character to give it I for the number, okay? To give it I for the number. I, okay. Character dot repeat I, all right? So it's going to repeat it 0 times the first time it goes through, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as it goes through. Did we already log the console? We did. Look, there it is. So now we got to do something to center it, but we'll get to that later. All right, so now let's submit it. All right, now we're on to step 41. All right, yeah, I got to re-record 41 through 50. I was using the webcam microphone instead of a good microphone. Anyway, so we're getting closer. At this point, we're encountering what's known as an off by 1 error, a frequent problem in zero-based indexing. Languages like JavaScript. Anyway, the first index of our rows array is 0, which is why we start our for loop with I equals 0. But repeating a string 0 times results in nothing to print, believe it or not. So to fix this, we're going to add 1 to the value of I in our repeat method call. We're not going to assign it back to I like we did in our loop conditions. All right. So yeah, we're going to change this to 1 right here. And I think that's all we got to do right now. And it's like this. Push character dot repeat 0 times, right? It's not going to put the first one on there. I don't remember what it looked like on the second one. Like I said, this is a re-recording on the previous one. But yeah, just think of it like this. Repeating 0 times, not going to repeat it all, right? So let's check the code. We should add 1 to I in our repeat. Let's redo this. Plus one there. How about that? Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 42. So the logic for formatting this hybrid is likely going to get complicated, all right? Which means it's a great time to extract that code into a function. So a function is a block of code that can be reused throughout our application. Functions are declared with the following syntax. So we'll have function right there, the name of the function, and the parameter, right? So this function right here, it's the same as like having let or const. It's just going to tell the computer that the following code is a function. This is the name of it, all right? And then the parameter, we'll talk about the parameters later, but this is like a variable in here, and we'll get into that. Well, it says right there. So the function keyword tells JavaScript that the name variable is going to be a function. Parameter is a variable that represents a value that is passed into the function when it's used. A function may have as many or as few parameters as we'd like, so that we can have 0 to as many as we want, all right? Like a for loop, the space between the curly braces is the function body. So yeah, inside of here, that's where the guts of the function is going to be. So we're going to declare a pad row function, and we're not going to declare any parameter variables yet. The function body should be empty, and we're going to remember that we need to use camel case for our naming conventions, all right? So yeah, we're going to start off right here. We're going to say function. That's just like const or let. See how it's the same color? All right, and then we're going to give it the name of pad row, all right? And then we're not going to give it any kind of, what's the thing called? Any kind of parameter yet. And then we're going to check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 43. So in order to use a function, we need to call it. A function call tells our application to run the code from the function wherever we choose to call it. The syntax for a function call is the function name followed by parentheses. For example, this code defines and calls a test function. So we'll have the function test right here, and then afterwards we'll have the test like this, right? We'll say test, and then we'll do the parentheses, right? So it knows that this is the function, right? All right, and so we're going to call our pad row function. So down here on 8, we're going to call pad row, just like that, all right? Let's cap it off with a semicolon, check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now on to step 44. So we're calling our pad row function, but not doing anything with that function call. True. All functions in JavaScript return a value, meaning they provide a defined result of calling them for us to use elsewhere, right? So whenever we say return a value, it's the same as like print, but we're going to say like, what is the function return, right? And so this is a very common thing we're going to hear all the time. So to see the result of calling our pad row function, we're going to declare a call variable and assign our existing pad row to that variable, right? So declare a call variable. Okay, so right here in front of it, let's say const call equals, and that should be it. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 45. So now we're going to add a log statement to print the value of our call variable, right? So let's say, what is it? Console.log call. And let's check the code. We should log our call variable. Huh? Is that not good enough for you? Semicolon. Oh my bad. Sorry, free code camp. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 46. So our call variable has an undefined value, even though we defined it. I didn't even look on the last one. Let's run it again. Yes, it does. All right. This is because our pad row function does not currently return a value. By default, functions return undefined as their value, believe it or not. And that's because, yeah, it's not defined. You see there's no definition in there. That's another thing we can call the guts of it is the definition of the function. In order to return something else, we need to use the return keyword. So here's an example of a function that returns the string. Functions are cool. All right. So we've got function. We've got the name of it, which is demo. We've got the place where the parentheses, the place where the arguments would go. The parameters would go. And then we've got the function body right here. And we're returning the string functions are cool with an exclamation point. We're going to use the return keyword to have our function return the string hello. All right. So yeah, just like up there, we'll say return, and then we'll have the string hello like that. All right. So now let's check the code, and you can see it says hello there instead of undefined. So it looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 47. So when we have a value that is explicitly written in our code, like the hello string in our function, it's considered to be hard-coded, all right? So yeah, this is the first time they've talked about this, but yeah, this means there's not, okay, well, it's going to say so. Hard-coding a value inside a function might not make it as reusable as we'd like, all right? So yeah, hard-coding means that it's just, no matter what, this function will do this. So we might as well have just made it a const like character equals hello or something like that, or pad row equals hello, without all this extra work, right? So instead, we can define parameters for the function. Parameters are special variables that are given a value when we call the function and can be used in our function to dynamically change the result of the function's code, right? So they're special variables, like it said. To add a parameter to our function, we need to add a variable name inside the parentheses. For example, this demo function has a name parameter. So here's the function call, whatever we called it. I forgot what that was called already. Here's the name of it. And then name right here, that's the parameter. So name sounds like a useful parameter. So it can be anything. It can be anything we want. A, B, C, any kind of word, any kind of mishmash, whatever you want. All right. But name sounds like a useful parameter. So we're going to go ahead and add it to our pad row function. So right here in between these parentheses, we'll say name like that. All right. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 48. So a function does not have to return a hard-coded value, believe it or not. It can return the value stored in a variable. So parameters are special variables for function. Parameters are special variables for a function, so they can also be returned. We're going to change our pad row function to return the name parameter directly. All right, so let's get rid of this, and let's say name like this. And you see now this changed from gray to white, meaning that that these two are now linked. All right. So let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 49. So if we open our console again, we'll see that our pad row function is returning undefined. Let's see. Yep. Just like that. Even though we defined a return value. Oh no, this is because parameters need to be given a value when we call the function. Yeah, so right here, it doesn't have anything inside of these parentheses, so it doesn't know anything yet. It doesn't know to do anything yet. So when we pass a value to a function call, that value is referred to as an argument, right? So here's an example of calling a demo function and passing Naomi as the argument for the name parameter. So yeah, this, when it's inside of the function definition itself, this is called the what do they call it, the parameter. And when it's inside of the call, this is called the argument. Right, there's a lot of confusion involved, I know, because I was confused myself. This is the parameter, argument, parameter, argument. Okay, so that's what they're saying, but sometimes they mess it up and they call this an argument too. But just remember, this is the parameter, argument. Right. So we've got the function, the name of the function. We've got the parameter. We're saying return the parameter name, right? So we'll say demo. This is the function call, and then we're passing the argument Naomi in there, right? And so that's how they say it. So we're going to pass our own name as the argument for the name parameter in our pad row call. Remember that our name is a string, so we'll need to use quotes, right? So let's do that. Let's have some quotes, and we'll put your name, code, man S. There we go. Check the code. Looks good. There it is right there. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 50. All right. So variables in JavaScript are available in a specific scope. So in other words, where a variable is declared determines where in the code it can be used, right? So yeah, if we had this, well, okay, we'll go over this. So the first scope is the global scope. Variables that are declared outside of any block, like a function or for loop, are in the global scope. So these are in the global scope. This is in the global scope. This is in the global, and this is in the global, right? So when a variable is in the global scope, a function can access it. A function can access it in its definition. So here's an example of a function using a global title variable, right? So we've got const title outside of the function, and then we've got function. Here's the name, the parameter, and then we're going to say return title plus name. So we've got professor, and then we've got a space after professor, and then we're going to also add Naomi to it. So then when we call this, it's going to say professor space Naomi. All right. This example would return professor space Naomi. We're going to update pad row. We're going to update our pad row function to return the value of concatenating our character variable to the beginning of the name parameter. All right. What are we going to do? All right. So we're going to do the function call. Did they get rid of the function call for us? Whatever. All right. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to say, what are we going to say? We'll say, oh yeah. Inside of here, we'll say name plus, no, we're going to put the character in front of the name. All right. So we'll put character, we'll say character plus name like that. All right. So let's check the code. All right. So we got hashtag camperchan. Okay, that's what they named it. This is code man S. Well, whatever. Anyway, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 51. So variables can also be declared inside a function. These variables are considered to be in the local scope or block scope, whichever one you want to say. A variable declared inside a function can only be used inside that function. If we try to access it outside the function, we will get either undefined or an error. All right. To see this in action, we're going to use const to declare a test variable in our padRow function, initializing it with the value testing, right? Then below our function, we'll try to log test in the console, and we'll see an error because it's not defined outside the function's local scope. Then we'll remove the console log and pass the test and continue. Okay, whatever. All right. So yeah, we'll say const test. Is that what we're doing? Equals testing. All right. And then right down here, we'll do console.log test. All right. And you can see it doesn't even change colors right here. Also, this needs to be before whatever, return, I guess. Because, I mean, if we put it after return, it'll be the function will already be done. So, you know. Anyway, so when we do this, you see test is not defined because it's not. All right, so let's get rid of this and submit it. Okay, whatever. Now we're on to step 52. So there's a bit of a problem here. It's a bit of a problem. So our test declaration is currently after our return statement. Well, okay. Anyway, we just said that. So an important thing to know about the return keyword is that it does not just define a value to be returned from our function. It also stops the execution of our function code. This means that any code after a return statement will not run, like I just said. We're going to move the test initialization to the line above the return. All right. So let's do that. There we go. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 53. So if we try to add a console.log test call below our padRow function, we would see an error. Yes. Below. Okay. This is because, yeah, didn't we just say that? Didn't we just prove that? Anyway, this is because test is defined in the local scope. Didn't we literally just do that on 51? Hey, whatever. So this is because test is defined in the local scope, meaning we cannot access it in the global scope outside of the padRow function, okay? Returning a value from a function brings that value into the scope where the function was called. To bring our testing value from the padRow function into the global scope, we're going to update our return statement and return only the test variable. Okay, so we'll just say return test. Check it, looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 54. So now our call variable has the value testing, but our function is no longer using the name parameter. True. Yeah, this is useless now. We're going to remove the name parameter from our function declaration, then remove our camperchan string from the padRow call. Okay. And okay, and okay. All right. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 55. So because our function was no longer using the parameter, changing the value passed in the call did not affect it. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and remove the test declaration from our padRow function and also remove the return statement so our function is empty again. Could we have done this all on one, in one step? You know, whatever. We know how free code camp works. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 56. As expected, our function now returns undefined again. Our call variable is not necessary anymore. So remove the call declaration from the console.log and the console.log from the call variable. Okay, so yeah, we could have just did 3 steps in one, but whatever. Here's step 57. In order to know how to format a row, our pad row function will need to know which row number we're on and how many rows in total are being generated. The best way to do this is by creating function parameters for them. We're going to give our pad row function a row number and row count parameter. Multiple parameters are separated by a comma. Okay. Row number and row count parameter. Okay, that's what we'll do. Number, camel case, remember that. Row count. Check the code. Looks good and submitted. Now we're on to step 58. So we're going to remember in an earlier step, we learned about return values. A function can return a value for our application to consume separately. So what? A function can return a value for our application to consume separately. What? To consume separately? What? Anyway, in a function, the return keyword is used to specify a return value. For example, this function would return the value given to the first parameter. Yes, that would definitely happen. So we're going to use the return keyword to return the value of the character variable repeated row number times. Huh? Return keyword to the value of character row number times. So we'll say return row number dot repeat. We did go over repeat, right? No, not row number, character repeat row number times. Row number times. What? Anyway, check it, looks good. What is this talking about? In a function, the return keyword, didn't we already go over return so many times before? Did like 9 different people write this whole thing and then nobody went over it? Whatever. I guarantee you they're going to change this whole thing and then I'm going to have to re-record this thing because this is so stupid. So step 59. A function call allows us to actually use a function. We may not have been aware of it, but the methods like the push method that we have been using have been function calls. We may not have been aware of it, but the methods like push that we have been using have been function calls. How many halves? This 1, 2, 3 halves in one sentence. So a function is called by referencing the function's name and adding a set of. Didn't we already go over this? Didn't we literally go over this already? Anyway, here's how to call a test function. Test like this. We literally went over this. How many steps ago? Okay, well, I mean, I've been redoing it myself. Whatever. So we're going to replace the character dot repeat I+1 in our push call with a function call for our pad row function. Okay, so we'll just call pad row right here instead of that. So pad row. There's no way they're gonna leave it like this. They can't. This is so stupid. There's no way. Should not use I push 1 and should what? All right. Replace the character dot repeat in our push call with a function call for pad row. Huh? All right, go back. Replace the character dot repeat in our push call with a. Okay, so I guess we're going to do pad row inside of push. Okay. Okay, so yeah. This is getting a little ludicrous, don't you think? Pad row. So it's going to do this. on each row. Okay, whatever. What are we doing though? Pad row. All right. Anyway, so we're on step 60. This is getting confusing, isn't it? Our pad row function has two parameters which we define. Values are provided to those parameters when a function is called. The values we provide to a function call are referenced to as arguments. We literally went over this already. And we pass arguments into a function call. So here's a function call with hello passed as an argument. So test hello, okay? Pass I+1 and count as the arguments to our pad row call. Like parameters, arguments are separated by commas, okay? So I+1, comma, count. Okay. The thing is, why not also explain what's going on here? All right, so what are we doing right now? So rows.push right now is pushing pad row, and pad row is returning character.repeat row number. And the row number is going to be I+1. So at first it's 1, and then count is going to be 8 for now. And then what is row count? We haven't done row count inside of function yet, so still got to do that. All right, so that's what's going on right now. Let's see if this works. It does, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 61. So we should now see the same bunch of characters in our console. Okay. Our pad row function is doing the exact same thing we were doing earlier, but now it's in a reusable section of its own, all right? We're going to use the addition operator to concatenate a blank space, so just a space in between two quotes, to the beginning and end of our repeated character string. All right, so addition operator can concatenate a blank space. Plus, and then we'll do double quotes with a space in between them. Hopefully that works. Nope. Oh, to the character string. To the character. Use an addition operator to concatenate a blank space to the beginning and beginning also. So beginning and end. All right, now let's check it. Okay, and submit it. So now we're on to step 62. Now it's time for a bit of math. Consider a 3-row pyramid. If we want it centered, it would look something like this. We'd have 2 spaces on one side and 2 spaces on the other if we have 1. And then 1 and 1 if we have 3. And then none if we have 5. Okay. Pardon me. So empty spaces have been replaced with interpuncts. I guess that's what these dots are. Or middle dots, okay, for readability. If we extrapolate the pattern, we can see that the spaces at the beginning and end of a row follow a pattern. Yes, it's 2 on one side and then 1 and then 0, okay? And then so now we're going to update our blank space string to be repeated row count minus row number times, all right? So this would be row 1 minus row, so row count would be row 1 minus row number? Row count. Oh, row count. 8. 8 minus 1 times? Yeah, okay, that would make sense. So this is 3. This count would be 3, right? So row number, what was it? Row number? So row number is 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, so that's what that would work. That, pardon me, that's what that logic is. So we're going to update our blank space string to be repeated row count. Okay, so we'll have this dot repeat. All right, so right after the quotes, we'll have dot repeat, and then we'll have it repeat row count minus row number. All right, put some spaces in there. Oh, not like that. All right, and now let's get the dot repeat and bring it down to the end over here. And that should take care of it. Let's check the code. Okay, it does that. Okay. And submit it. All right, now we're on to 63. So we can pass full expressions as an argument. The function will receive the result of evaluating that expression. So for example, these two function calls would yield the same result. So test 2 times 3 plus 1, so that's 7, and test 7 right there, right? So looking at the pattern again, like this, we're going to update the character value to be repeated 2 times row number minus 1. 2 times row number minus 1 times. 2 times row number, so to repeat it 2 times row number minus 1. Boink. 2 times row number. Okay, so that'll give us odds each time. So 2 times row number. So 2 times 1 is 2 minus 1. Okay, so this is going to give us an odd each time. All right. So now let's check it. Okay, there it is. Okay, there it is. There it is. There it is. Anyway, they didn't tell us it was going to be odd anyway. So yeah, there we go. Look at the pattern again. Figure it out for yourself. Or to make odd numbers, we just say 2 times row number minus 1, and it'll give us an odd each time to where it'll make a pyramid. Okay, and submit it. Step 64, and we're barely halfway. We're a little bit over halfway right now. So let's see how much more we got to do. Our pyramid generator now functions as expected. But this is an excellent opportunity to further explore the code we have written, okay? The addition operator is not the only way to add values to a variable. The addition assignment operator can be used as shorthand to mean take the original value of the variable, add this value, and assign the results back to the variable. So for example, these two statements would yield the exact same result. So we would say test equals test plus 1, or we would do test plus equals 1, right? And this just eliminates the need to say test plus, to repeat this and do plus. We just move the plus in front of the equals sign, and that's it. So we're going to update our iterator statement in the for loop to use addition assignment. All right. So here we've got this plus equals this I plus 1. We'll just say plus equals right here. All right. There we go. Great. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 65. Because we are only increasing I by 1, we can use the increment operator plus plus. This operator increases the value of a variable y1, updating the assignment for that variable. For example, test would become 8 here. All right. So instead of this thing right here, instead of plus equals 1, we can shorten it even more and just say plus plus like that. So we're going to replace our addition assignment with the increment operator for our loop iteration. And this is how we usually do iterations, incrementers as well. So plus plus like that. And check the code. Looks good. Let's see, it's the same thing, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 66. So rather than having to pass I plus 1 to our pad row call, we could instead start our loop at 1. This would allow us to create a 1-indexed loop. So we're going to update our iterator to start at 1 instead of 0. All right, so we'll just say 1 right here. And that way we don't have to say I plus 1. We could just change this to I. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. And these are just little logic things that we can do all the time. I guess they're going to make us do the same on 67. The pyramid looks a little funny now because we are starting loop at 1 instead of 0. So we do not need to add I when we pass it to pad row. So we'll update the first argument of our pad row to be I. All right, we could have skipped this step on the last one, but whatever. There we go. And submit it. So here's step 68. Unfortunately, now the bottom of the pyramid has disappeared. This is because we have created another off by 1 error. Our original loop went for I values from 0 to 7 because the count is 8. And our condition requires I to be less than the count. Our loop is now running for I values from 1 to 7. Yes, because of that. So our loop needs to be updated and run when I is 8 too. So looking at our logic, this means that our loop should run when I is less than or equal to count. So we can use the less than or equal to or equal to operator, like this. So we're going to update the loop condition to run to run while I is less than or equal to count. All right. So we just add an equal sign after this, and this is less than or equal to count. All right. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 69. So comments can be helpful for explaining why our code takes a certain approach or leaving to-do notes for our future self. Yes, comments. We rarely do it on this site, but there are comments. In JavaScript, we can use the / these are 2 forward slashes, to leave a single line comment in our code. We're going to add a single line comment above our function to remind ourselves to change the code to a different type of loop. All right, so here on 9, we'll do / change later to different loop. I'm sure they're not going to make us say something specific. All right, great. So submit it. All right, now we're on to 70. Look, they did say something different. So JavaScript JavaScript also has support for multi-line comments. A multi-line comment starts with a / and a star and ends with a star and a slash. Unlike a single-line comment, a multi-line comment will encapsulate multiple lines. So we're going to use the multi-line comment to turn our current for loop, including the body, into a multi-line comment. All right. So we'll just go like this. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, so I took a little break. Now we're doing step 71. We already did it once, but it wasn't good enough. So our pyramid has disappeared again. That's okay. That is to be expected. Before we create our new loop, we need to learn about if statements. An if statement allows us to run a block of code only when a condition is met. They use the following syntax. We have if, and then inside of parentheses, we've got the condition. And then inside of some brackets, we've got some curly braces. We've got some logic right here in the code block, or the if block. That's what we usually call it. So we're going to create an if statement with the Boolean true as the condition. In the body, we're going to print the string condition is true. All right. So we're going to say if, and then right here we'll say true like that. You don't need to wrap that in parentheses, not in parentheses, quotes, because this is the Boolean itself. It's an actual value. And then we'll say console.log string condition is true, just like that. So let's check the code. Look, we've got that right there. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 72. Now we're going to see this string printed on the console. We already saw that because true is in fact true. So we're going to change the condition of our if statement to the Boolean false. All right, we'll say false thusly. And then let's check it. And it doesn't say anything because when it's false, this thing doesn't run at all. All right, so let's submit it. So now the string is no longer printing because false is not true, believe it or not. But what about other values, right? So we'll try changing the condition to the string false. All right, so let's just wrap this in quotes like this, and you see this shows up, and that's because string is a truthy value, even if the string is false, right? You see its condition is true, right? Even if we put a number in there or anything that's truthy, that's a word that we use a lot in this, truthy and falsy, it will evaluate true. All right, so we're on to step 74. So the text has appeared again, yay! This is because false is a string, which when evaluated to a Boolean becomes true. This means false is a truthy value. Remember truthy and falsy, all right? So a truthy value is a value that is considered true when evaluated as a Boolean. Most of the values we encounter in JavaScript will be truthy. A falsy value is the opposite. A value considered false when evaluated as a Boolean. JavaScript has a defined list of falsy values. Some of them include false, the number 0, an empty string, null, undefined, and nan, which means not a number. All right. We're going to try changing our if condition, we're going to try changing our if condition to an empty string, which is a falsy value. So let's just double click false right here, delete it. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. Now we're on to 75. So the text is gone again. Empty strings evaluate to false, making them a falsy value. We will learn more about truthy and falsy values in future projects. So for now, we're going to remove the if statement entirely. We'll use let to declare a continue loop variable and assign it the Boolean false. And then we're going to use let to declare a done variable and assign it the value of 0. All right, so let's get rid of this, and we'll say let continue loop equal false. All right, then we'll come down here and say let done equals 0. How about that? Check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 76. So a while loop will run over and over again until the condition specified is no longer true. It has the following syntax: while, the condition, and logic, right? So we're going to use that syntax to declare a while loop with continue loop as the condition. The body should remain empty, should be empty. All right. So we'll say while continue loop. All right. And then we'll come down here and just leave that empty. All right. So right now this is false. So no matter what, this thing is not going to run. All right. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 77. So right now, if we change continue loop to true, our while loop will run forever. It will. This is called an infinite loop, and we should be careful to avoid these. We absolutely should. An infinite loop can lock up our system, requiring a full restart to escape. So to avoid this, we're going to start by using the increment operator to increase the value of the done variable inside our loop. All right. So we'll say done plus plus like this. How about that? Let's move this over a little bit. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 78. So the equality operator, or double equals, is used to check if two values are equal. To compare two values, we'd use a statement like value equals 8, and that's how I say it, all right? We're going to add an if statement to our loop, and the statement should check if done is equal to count using the equality operator, all right? So we'll do an if statement right here. If, and we're going to say if done equals count, like that. And then we're going to have a little block of code in there. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 79. So the equality operator can lead to some strange behavior in JavaScript. For example, the string 0 equals true. Equals 0, the number is true, even though 1 is a string and 1 is a number. Yeah, and that's because this is not strictly equal. But the strict equality operator, the triple equals, is used to check if two values are equal and share the same data type. All right. So because these are both zeros, but one's a string and one's a number, it's true. But if we did the same thing with thing down here with a string and a string 0 and a number 0, it would be false. All right. So the triple equals is used to check if two values are equal and share the same data type. As a general rule, this is the equality operator we should always use, and we do use that a lot. With the strict equality operator, string 0 and number 0 becomes string 0, triple equals number 0 becomes false, because while they might have the same value of 0, they are not the same type. All right. Basically, this is a truthy value, and this is a falsy value. So we're going to update our done equals count condition to use strict equality operator. All right, so we'll take the equals and make it triple equals. Check the code. Looks good, and submit it. There we go. And now we're on to step 80. So when done has reached the value of count, we want the loop to stop executing. So inside our if body, we're going to assign the Boolean false to our continue loop variable, right? So we'll say, it's doing that thing, continue loop, when it triple equals false. No. We're assigning it. Continue loop equals false, like that. I'm gonna have to reset this thing again. Check the code, looks good, and submit it. I wonder why the thing's lagging. I don't know. Anyway, so now we're on to step 81. So to make our pyramid generate again, we're going to push the result of calling pad row with done and count as the arguments to our rows array, similar to what we did in the first loop. Okay, let's look at this again. We're going to push the result of calling pad row with done and count as the arguments to our rows array. All right, so we'll go rows like this, rows dot push, and we're going to push pad row with done, comma, count. All right, that should take care of it. Let's check the code. Come on, let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 82. So the strict inequality operator, the what is this thing called? The not operator. Well, it's an exclamation point and two equal signs, but we haven't talked about it yet. This thing is usually called the not operator. All right. So it allows us to check if two values are not equal or do not have the same type. The syntax is similar to the equality operator. Value is not equal. What? The syntax is similar to the equality operator. So value is not equal to 4. Right. So that's basically how that's said. So we're going to update our while loop condition to check if done is not equal to count. So we'll change this first equal sign to the not operator like this. What are they called? Strict inequality operator. Whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll check the code. And what's the problem? Update our while loop to check if done is not equal to count. All right, let's redo this. Maybe done is not, while done is not equal to count, while done is not equal, strictly not equal to count. How about that? Check it. All right, there we go. Looks good, and submit it. All right. So now we're on to step 83. So since we have moved the comparison into the while condition, we can remove our entire if statement. Okay. If done equals count, change it to false. Okay, yeah, we can do that. So let's get rid of this. I guess we can get rid of the continue loop thing too. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 84. Our loop is no longer relying on the continue loop variable. This makes the variable an unused declaration. Generally, we want to avoid unused declarations to prevent future confusion. So we're going to remove our continue loop variable. All right, so let's just get rid of this right here. We want to select like all of 14 and up to 13. That way it gets rid of the whole white space too, right? So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 85. So our pyramid generator is still working. However, it could be possible to end up with an infinite loop again, because we are only checking if done is not equal to count. If done were to be larger than count, our loop would go on forever. Huh? If done, is done not going to be always 0? All right, whatever. So we're going to update our loop's condition to check if done is less than or equal to count. The loop's condition. Okay, so we'll do what? What? Update the loop's condition to check if done is less than or equal to count. The loop's condition. If, okay, how about this? Less than or equal to. Is that what they're talking about? Check the code. Looks good. Okay. And submit it. All right. So using done to track the number of rows that have been generated is functional. But we can actually clean up the logic a bit further. Arrays have a special length property that allows us to see how many values or elements are in the array. We already talked about that. We would access this property using syntax like myArray.length. So we're going to update our condition to check if rows.length is less than or equal to count. All right, so we'll change done to rows.length. All right, we'll probably have to get rid of done next. Check it, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on step 87. So we can also replace the done reference in our pad row call. Note that rows.length here would give us an off by one error because done is incremented before the call. So we need to replace done here with rows.length plus 1. When we do this, we may see a range error because we've created another off by one error. So we'll need to change the while condition to use the less than operator instead of the less than or equal operator. Okay. So we'll need to replace done with rows.length. So this done or this done? Okay, let's do this. Rows.length, take this, we'll get this, change that, add plus 1. What? Okay. Are they talking about here? Change the while to use. We'll need to change the while to use the less than operator instead of less than equal to. Is this what they're saying? You should pass rows.length as the argument. Okay, well, let's do that. Is that what we're doing? We need to replace done. What? All right, go back. This with rows.length? Rows.length plus 1? Is that what you're talking about? Less than count. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. Whatever. All right, next. Now we're on to step 88. So now we no longer need our done variable. We're going to remove the increment operation from our loop and the variable declaration for done. All right, so let's get rid of this. Highlight 17 to the end of 16, delete it like that. Highlight 14 to 13 like this and delete it like that. All right. Let's delete one more. Boom. Now it's a little more formatted. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 89. So that's a very clean and functional loop. Nice work. But there's still more to explore. We're going to use a multi-line comment to comment out our while loops. I'm telling you, I did this first. Or maybe I didn't do it first, but I did this without somebody else telling me to. I did this before watching any videos on it. So there's that. Check the code. Yeah, no. I did this. Anyway, whatever. Check the code. Looks good. And this is totally my style. Go watch some of my Code Wars videos. Totally been doing this for like 2 years. All right. This is totally my style. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 90. So what if we made our pyramid upside down or inverted? Time to try it out. So we'll start by creating a new for loop. We're going to declare our iterator I and assign it the value of count. Then we're going to use the Boolean false for our condition and iteration statements. All right. So we'll start with a new for loop. We'll have let I equal count. And then use Boolean false for our condition. False. False. And then false again. I guess that's what they're asking. And then let's have this little block right there with the curly braces. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 91. So because we're going to loop in the opposite direction, our loop needs to run while I is greater than 0. We can use the greater than operator for this. So it's a right pointing angle bracket. We're going to set our loop's condition to run when I is greater than 0. All right. So right here in the middle, we'll say, while I is greater than 0. That's not it. 0. All right. Check the key. Come on. Check the code. Looks good and submit it. Now we're on to step 92. So our iteration statement is also going to be different. Instead of adding 1 to I with each loop, we're going to need to subtract 1. So like we did earlier with the I equals I plus 1, we're going to update our iteration statement to give I the value of subtracting 1 from itself. All right, so I minus minus, come on now. Come on. Obviously, that's going to be the logical thing. All right, let's do it. Let's do I minus I equals I minus 1. Do they get extra money for extra steps? Who knows? Check the code, looks good, and submit it. 93. So again, we're going to push the result of calling pad row with our I and count variable. What? Again, we're going to push the results of calling pad row with our I and count variables to our row array. We'll open up the console to see the upside down pyramid. Okay. So yeah, we'll say pushing what to rows dot push. We'll do pad row. All right. And we're going to say I and count as the variables. Okay. Let's do a console.log. Console.log. What are we logging? Pad row? No. Character? Rows? Rows? Console to see the... Oh, we already have it on. Okay, cool. Let's get rid of this. Check the code. Okay, yeah, look at that. Oh, we've got a drill. Let's submit it. Now we're on to step 94. So just like addition, there are different operators we can use for subtraction. The subtraction assignment operator, minus equals, subtracts the given value from the current variable value. This then it assigns the results back to the variable. So we're going to replace our iterator statement with the correct statement using the subtraction assignment operator. All right. So we'll do minus equals 1. How about that? Minus equals. Boom. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. I wonder what we're going to do next. Step 95. Because we are only subtracting 1 from I, we can use the decrement operator, the minus minus. So we'll replace our subtraction assignment with the decrement operator. Minus minus. Are they getting extra money for extra steps? I don't know. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. It doesn't make sense that they would because they don't have ads up. So what's the point? Anyway, whatever. So step 96. So we're going to use a multi-line comment to comment out this loop as well to prepare for the next approach. All right, so let's do it again. Multi-line comment 1 and then 2. There we go. That's not right. It's good enough. Check it. Looks good. It's down here. I don't know why it went down here, but it did. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 97. So we can actually build the inverted pyramid without needing to loop backwards like we did. To do this, we'll need to learn a couple new array methods. We're going to start by using const to declare a numbers variable. We'll assign it an array with the elements 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll log the numbers array. What did you say to me? Start by using const to declare numbers, all right? So const numbers, all right, equals an array with 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, thusly. Let's put some spaces in just because why not, right? Check the code. Nope. Numbers. Console.log it. Okay. Console.log numbers. Check it. Looks good and submit it. All right. Now we're on to 98. Step 98. So the unshift method of an array allows us to add a value to the beginning of the array. Unlike the push method, which adds the value at the end of the array. Here's an example. So is all this stuff that we do, because we do all this stuff in the RPG, in the role-playing game, what's that thing called? In the role-playing game? Anyway, I'm going to re-record the role-playing game anyway after this. So let's do this. Here's an example. Const numbers equals this array. So numbers.unshift 5. The numbers array would now be 5, 1, 2, 3. Because, did we say it like that? Okay, so it pushes the whatever's in here to the beginning of the array instead of at the end, right? So we're going to use const to declare an unshifted variable and assign it the result of calling unshift method, on our numbers array. We'll pass 5 as the argument and then print our unshifted variable. Okay. Const unshifted equals numbers dot unshift 5 thusly. All right, let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, so now we're on to step 99. So notice that like the push method, the unshift method returns a new length of the array after the element is added. Is that what happened? Hold on. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. What else are we doing? What are we doing? All right. Arrays also have a shift method. This will remove the first element of the array, unlike the pop method, which removes the last element. So here's an example of the shift method. So we've got const numbers, blah, blah, blah. And then we do numbers.shift. It'll take the 1 off of the front of this array, right? So we're going to declare a shifted variable and assign it the result of calling shift on our numbers array and then print the variable. Right here. Const shifted equals numbers dot shift, like that. Cap it off with a semicolon. Let's see what happens. 5, 2, 3. Yeah, because they pop the they shift the 1 off of the front, and then we add the 5 after that. So the 1's gone on this one, and the 5's added with this one. All right, so let's check the code. Come on now. What did I do? You should log or okay. Console.log shifted. Is that good enough for you? Okay, great. And submit it. Now we're on to step 100. So now that we've tried these methods, we can do another inverted pyramid approach. But first, we need to clean up our experimentation. We'll remove our numbers array, and the method calls and call logs. Not this one. Let's just remove it all and see if that's what they want. Okay, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 101. Step 101. So sometimes we may wish to bring back previous code that we commented out. We can do so by removing the comment, whatever they call these slash stars around that code, and that's called uncommenting. We're going to uncomment only our first for loop, and we'll leave a single line, we'll leave the single line comment and the other 2 multi-line comments in place. So this right here, get rid of this at the beginning of 10 and this at the end of 12. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 102 and our pyramid. Our pyramid is no longer inverted. We saw at the end of the last one. This is because we are adding new rows to the end of the array. We're going to update our loop body to add new rows to the beginning of the array. Okay, so how do we do that? Minus? No. Push, shift, unshift. How about that? Check the code. Haha, look, it does that. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're doing step 103. So what if we had a way to toggle between an inverted pyramid and a standard pyramid? Well, then we'd have something totally different, right? We're going to start by declaring an inverted variable and assigning it the value true. We're not changing this variable in our code, but we will need to use let so our tests can modify it later. So the test can modify it later, whatever. So we're going to start by declaring an inverted variable. So we'll say const. No, we will need to use let. All right, so let inverted equal true, like that. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 104. So now we're going to use an if statement to check if inverted is true. We'll remember that we do not need to use an equality operator here. All right, so we'll say if. Let's go over here. If inside the parentheses, we'll say inverted triple E. What? Oh, yeah. We don't need it because if it's true, it's true. All right. So there we go. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 105. So now we're going to move our unshift method call into our if block. All right. So let's get this. Let's highlight 15 to the end of 14. Do a control X. Highlight 13 to the end of 12. Do a control V. And we've got that in there just like that. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. So now we're on to step 106. Sometimes we will want to run different code when an if condition is false. We can do this by adding an else block. An else block, an else block will only evaluate if the if block does not evaluate. Of course, yeah. The syntax to add an else block is like this. We've got if the condition. If it's true, we'll do this. Else, we'll do this. All right. So that's basically how that works. So we're going to add an else block to our if block. So we'll say right after this curly brace, else, like that. All right. Let's let's bring this back. How about that? Check the code. Looks good. Submit it. Now we're on to step 107. All right. So when inverted is false, we want to build a standard pyramid. We're going to use push like we have in the previous steps to achieve this. Okay. So let's get this all of 113 to the end of 112. Grab that, drop it off like this, change the unshift to push. Hopefully that works. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 108. Are we going to have a button over here? Okay, we'll see. Our pyramid generator is now in a finished state with more functionality than we originally planned, believe it or not. The next step is to clean up our code. We're going to remove all the comments, both single and multi-line, from our code. Get out of here. This was only 17 lines. Okay, 20 something. So that's out of there. Check the code. Looks good. Submit it. Now we're on to step 109. Nice work. Experiment with different values for our character count and inverted variables. When we are ready to move on to the next project, we're going to set character to an exclamation point, count to 10, and invert it to false to continue. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Code man AS. Yeah, that's ridiculous. All right. What are we doing here? Exclamation point. How about that? Set count to 10. And invert it to false. Can we put 0? It works. All right. So there we go. We've got a pyramid full of exclamation marks. All right. So hopefully you liked that one. Me reading it to you. I know I got a little bit emotional around this area, but whatever. It happens sometimes, right? I'm an emotional guy. That being said, so now we're done with learn introductory JavaScript by building a pyramid generator. If you liked it, put a like on the video. Give me a comment so we can get some revenue into this place. You know, because believe it or not, there's not a lot of money coming in for these videos. That being said, now we're on to learn basic JavaScript by building a role-playing game. And we'll see you next time.